Hello, and welcome to PoliticOly. This is episode 24 on August 9th, 2020. And my name is Stuart. My pronouns are he, him. And this is a weekly news and politics talk show from a leftist perspective based in Olympia, Washington, USA, which is occupied Medicine Creek Treaty land. You can find me on Twitter, as you can see here, at OlyPolitic for show updates and at Oly Stewart on my main. And you can email me at politicoly@gmail.com. So welcome to a particularly fabulous episode here. I just thought I'd get some colorful backgrounds going here. So below me here, you can see the cross stitch that my wife made for Black Lives Matter organization charity auction. She did a few of those, and I'll pull that up. Some more pictures here in a bit. And then my shirt here is a fabulous unicorn by local artist LeBayBay, who I will link to in the description, who is a local Black graphic designer and screen printer. So look her up. All right. So, but moving back to the show, if anybody is interested in recording a segment or a full episode by yourself for me to upload to the channel with a different perspective, or if you want to co-host or interview or anything like that, please let me know. And I'd love to broaden the perspective. And this platform is for the community, so keep that in mind. And I welcome participation and sharing the platform with you all. So get in contact if you have any interest or curiosity in that. On Tuesday, I recorded a whoops. Uh-oh. Hang on, I just clicked on the wrong page there. Let me switch it over. All right, there we go. So on Tuesday, though, I recorded a reaction video with the preliminary results from the Washington State primary election for 2020 came in. And you can find that on my channel at the link below. That's right here. And I appreciate all the views on that. And folks' contributions and comments. So you can tell I'm a leftist because you watch my live reaction to reading election results, and oh, it's a gut punch every time. So that's how you know I'm a leftist. I will go over some updates in the results since then today. Because in Washington, it takes a couple of weeks for all the ballots to be tabulated. They keep rolling in, and so we'll get some updates going on today from the past few days of results. You can check the status of your ballot at vote.wa.gov, which is a good habit because you'll know right away if there was an issue, like if your signature didn't match or something like that, and you can fix that to go get your ballot counted. So you want to check your ballot every time, in my opinion, just to make sure that it was counted, and then you don't have to wonder, because that's all it takes. It takes 20 seconds to. It's very quick and easy, so you might as well, right? So, but today I've got some updates on local and regional protests and upcoming events, and a fundraiser to share with you all that needs your support. So. Things keep rolling along in Olympia and elsewhere with rallies, barbecues, noise demos, marches, and more going on every day of the week. Supporters and organizers are always needed in the streets, so if you'd like to organize an event, I encourage you to do so, even if you've never done it before. Endless thanks to everyone pushing the culture as far left as possible, as fast as possible. Whether you contribute on the streets or in another way, I appreciate you. I know things are intense, stressful, and hard to balance right now with the pandemic hitting us in the middle of the collapse of capitalism. So, we're all just doing our best one day at a time. So don't be too hard on yourself, but do push yourself to keep taking steps and getting out of your comfort zone and staying connected with all the rest of the movement with all of us. So moving on to news. First of all, though, I want to shout out my wife Stacia, who made a Twitter account called Stitch Hottie to post her artwork. So check it out. There's a link below, and stay tuned for all her awesome projects she will put up on there. And just reading her post here, quote, "These are the cross-stitch I made for auctions to benefit Black Lives Matter organizations. Raised $210. Not for sale." So shout out to my wife for that beautiful artwork and for raising money for the movement. As I said, everybody contributes in different ways, and I appreciate all of that. So before I move on, though, to local political news, I want to take a quick look at the Washington COVID-19 update from the Department of Health. I've linked to this page below, and you can bookmark it to keep checking back. You can click on Data Dashboard, or click See Dashboard, and take a look at this page and look through it, because there's a lot of different ways you can look at the data just to help you better understand what's going on and the trajectory of this pandemic. So it takes a moment to load here, but you get statewide numbers, first of all, here on the data dashboard. But here in Washington, we are at 62,523 total cases, 5,896 hospitalizations, 1,688 deaths. So just rest in peace to everyone who has passed away from this pandemic. And my best wishes and my love out to everyone who has lost a loved one, or really anyone to this disease. So just, please continue to take this pandemic very seriously and distance as much as possible. Here in Thurston County, the numbers are now 708 cases and 11 deaths so far. Again, my heart goes out to all of those families and friends who've lost loved ones. And many people are taking this seriously. They're putting in an enormous amount of effort and work into doing their best to protect everyone with their actions. So let's all keep in mind the collective effort we're making to save lives right now by reducing the spread of COVID-19 as much as we can. As always, thank you to my fellow essential workers, healthcare workers, and everyone else just doing their best one day at a time. This is a post by local Olympia activist and organizer Lisa Ganser from yesterday, and I'll just read part of it here. Quote, "People who love David Pruitt, who was killed by police, are at the overpass right now. On Tuesday, August 4th, 2020, white father of two, 36-year-old friend, son, loved one, David James Pruitt, was dangling his legs from the Bethel Burley Road overpass. David was struggling with his mental health and needed support and a conversation. He needed help. Instead of helping, multiple people called 911, and then Kitsap County deputies were dispatched, and one of them shot and killed David Pruitt. There are lots of cops investigating themselves on this matter. The killer cop has not been named publicly and is currently on paid vacation. The investigating being done is surely on David Pruitt, as the cops, coroners, and cop unions create a narrative that blames the victim, David Pruitt, for the death that Kitsap Sheriff deputies caused. Police should never be invited in when anyone is having any kind of mental health or medical crisis. Dangling feet from an overpass should never lead to death." And there's more, but you can follow the link and read that for yourself. So thank you, Lisa Ganser, for always uplifting the voices of loved ones lost to police violence and their families. And thank you to everyone who showed up at that demonstration in solidarity as well, by the way. Just Housing is an organization started in Olympia a few years ago to organize direct support for houseless folks. Volunteers with Just Housing have spent countless hours on encampment support, advocacy, challenging the city and other jurisdictions to legalize survival, and so much more. They've done amazing work in our community, so thank you to Just Housing and everyone who has put work into that effort. Thank you. Let's read this update they posted this Wednesday. Quote, "Dear friends and supporters, there are some big changes taking place for our organization. Please read below for both the announcement and answers to some of the questions we expect folks to have about the changes. The members of Just Housing Olympia have decided to divide the group into two separate organizations. Just Housing Olympia will continue as a grassroots, non-incorporated organization focused entirely on advocacy and activism related to housing and houselessness. The new organization, named Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, will take over JHO's encampment support programs and direct service work. Olymap, unlike JHO, is an incorporated nonprofit, fiscally sponsored by an organization named Angels for Angels. Some questions and answers. 1. Why did we make this decision? And, end quote for now. And it goes on, I'm not going to read the whole post, but I have linked to it below so you can read the whole thing for yourself. But basically what happened is Just Housing was doing both direct aid to support encampments and then also activism and advocacy and work around reframing the conversation with regard to legalized survival and focusing on housing-based solutions and not temporary solutions. So basically what happened is to best be able to do that, they needed to be two different organizations focused on that, because when you're doing encampment support, you can be a nonprofit and get donations, and you know it's easier to get donations when you're an incorporated nonprofit, especially from institutional sources. So I think it's an effective change that they've made. This is a good decision here. And what it's going to allow them to do is their mission, which is focus on the material needs of the homeless population. And this is going to help them best accomplish that. So anyway, I wanted to highlight that. So if you see this name around Olymap, just know it is part of what is formerly known as Just Housing. Well, it still is, but right, split off those two parts. So anyway, and again, I've linked to that so you can read the rest of this. And I also wanted to just show you real quick the Olymap webpage. So it says, quote, "Our mission is to support the right of all people to have a safe and warm place to call home by centering the voices of unhoused and marginalized peoples, challenging systems of oppression, building bridges between housed and unhoused community members through engagement and education, and by offering health, safety, self-management, self-advocacy, and survival support to our neighbors living outdoors." So again, just thank you to Olymap and to Just Housing and everyone involved in those efforts. This is a KUOW news story titled "Ongoing Coverage of Protests for Racial Justice in the Seattle Area." And I've linked to this below. You might want to actually bookmark this to check back for updates. And this update from Friday, August 7th, I will quote here. 12:15 p.m. A group of protesters and their attorneys compared the Seattle Police Department's use of crowd control weapons against retreating demonstrators on July 25th to war crimes in a federal court filing Friday morning. The filing was made in response to the City of Seattle's rebuttal to a lawsuit filed on Monday seeking the enforcement of a suspended city ordinance banning the use of tear gas and other crowd control weapons. The lawsuit, filed in U.S. District Court for Western District of Washington, argues that, quote, "because the Seattle Police Department has acted above and outside the law in dispensing its unbridled force, the government effect is to establish a de facto protest tax. Individual protesters subjected to SPD's unabated and indiscriminate violence now must purchase cost-prohibitive gear to withstand munitions. City officials, however, refuted these allegations, maintaining that an earlier federal court decision already settled the dispute over banning less lethal crowd control weapons, pending a review by the Department of Justice. U.S. District Court Judge James Robart last month ruled that such a ban would interfere with the Seattle Police Department's compliance with a federal consent decree, entered in 2012, that has governed its use of force practices. End quote. And there's more, so you can follow the link again to read more of their updates. But I just wanted to note here the irony that the consent decree, now what is that? That is the deal with the Federal Department of Justice that the Seattle Police Department had to enter into a number of years ago because they were found to consistently be violating people's civil rights. And they were not able to fix that through local reforms and policy. And so they had to enter into that consent decree, basically mandating review by the Department of Justice of Seattle Police Department policies and practices to ensure that they were improving over time with regard to civil rights and systemic racism in their practices and so on. And so, but now we see that the consent decree is actually being used by Trump's Department of Justice to say that, well, the cops, you can't dictate by local municipal policy the practices of the police with a intent to reduce police violence because the consent decree requires them to commit that violence. So, again, no justice in an injustice system. Doesn't mean we shouldn't try and, shoot our lawsuit shots when we have them. We should, but again, just no justice in an injustice system. And especially when you have Trump folks running the Department of Justice, right? Like, what kind of oversight are you going to get from that? Well, it's pretty obvious. So what's the next step for trying to control these war crime munitions and tear gas and so on? I will keep you posted as I continue to get legal updates on all these cases. So, moving on to a Twitter post here by Spekulation. I went to the Twitter post. This is also on YouTube, and in the links below, if you take a look, because you wanna watch or share this, you'll find both this Twitter post and the YouTube link. But I pulled up the Twitter post here so I can read Spec's quote. A few days ago, Seattle police held a press conference to unveil their latest piece of propaganda, a short film titled Bridging the Gap, a last-ditched effort to stop the impending vote to defund their department. It was wildly inaccurate, so I decided to make some changes. And now it's called Burning the Bridge by Seattle artist and activist Spekulation.
If you stop resisting, this will be an easy conversation.
We only hurt you because you're not listening.
Maybe it's time that you realize that we do not give a fuck about this community, and we can no longer fake it.
We resent everyone in this community, no matter race, creed, color, or sexual orientation, but we certainly prefer wealthy white people.
This is demonstrated by how we police communities of color and how we don't police wealthy white communities at all, unless poor people find their way in somehow.
You might have seen some of the reprehensible acts of some police officers in our country.
You might even be disappointed and disgusted, but you haven't seen anything yet.
We cannot change the past, nor can we control the actions of ourselves or our fellow officers.
Are we perfect? Of course not. Sometimes we get caught.
We are ordinary people given extraordinary power without any accountability.
One unjustified fatal incident is no big deal.
You will respect the people who wear this badge. We're here to bash skulls and gas neighborhoods, not to cater to your ridiculous morals and ideals.
You will never understand the shameless violence that is required in this profession.
Every event of the past few weeks will be extensively reviewed, and footage that makes us look good will be cherry-picked and given to the media.
Millions have spoken, and we have pepper sprayed each one of them in the face. And if they still got more to say, we will not ignore them.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that was amazing. So, thank you to Spekulation for that. Whew. That's like the Onion, right? I mean, like, if you want some real news today, you don't go to CNN or whatever. You go to the Onion because they're going to be the most honest, and this does well in that tradition. So, props to Spec. So, I've also linked below to this National Lawyers Guild page. Oh, wait. Hang on. Flipped my links there. There we go. Okay, so this is a post by at Utah Mads, Mutual Aid Mads, on Twitter. Quote, I am the protester named here who may face life in prison for allegedly buying paint. My co-defendants are facing the same charges as me for similarly low-level allegations. This is political repression. The state wants to silence dissent. Don't let them. Be loud. And it's quoting a Daily Beast article. Madalena McNeil is accused of buying red paint before a protest. Under aggressive new criminal charges, it could mean she spends the rest of her life in prison. And that was from August 7th. This post is from August 7th as well. I will continue quoting the poster here. Quote, political repression isn't just punishing acts that are political in nature. Political repression means the state targets those it views as enemies and uses the might of law enforcement and the criminal justice system to punish and silence them. This will keep happening. And then there's some links to donate here to support the work against police repression in Utah. And I'll just scroll down here to, there is a, whoops, I lost the reply here. Oh, here we go. So I just wanted to show, there's also a GoFundMe page here to support protesters brutalized by Utah cops. They've raised $6,371 of their $15,000 goal. So I have shared that below in the comments, so you can go support that as well. This one is a post by Portland Independent Documentarians at PDocumentarians on Twitter. And, quote, footage from a live streamer of this explosive device attack. Attackers threw pipe bombs from behind trees in the dark, unlit areas of the park at protesters. Eyewitnesses say there were at least 2 attackers involved. Hashtag Portland protest, hashtag Black Lives Matter. And there is a link to the original footage by Shabyco on Twitch. So that's why I've chosen this link to share. There are many posts on this topic, and I'm not going to actually play the videos or post the information of the alleged perpetrator here. Folks have figured out that it may be someone involved in training police or have some connection to the police in that way. But that's all speculative at this point from my perspective, and I'll let you find that information on your own. But I shared this one because it's got the link to the original source of the footage on Twitch. So let's see. And I will share updates going forward I just wasn't able to find the most reliable sources for some of that additional information. And so I'll update you next show on more from that. But yeah, just be aware that that is something that's going on. These pipe bombs were apparently fairly amateur in construction and did a minimal amount of damage compared to a really large professional pipe bomb or something like that. Can be extremely dangerous and deadly. And these were not that, but still very dangerous and scary, especially if these alleged connections to law enforcement, or if they turn out to be connections to right-wing militia or something. We don't know. It's all speculative at this point. So again, I'll follow up on that in the future with more information as that comes out. I've also linked below to this National Lawyers Guild page. Oh, whoops. This one. This National Lawyers Guild page for resisting federal repression, because it's got all the contact info and things like that you may need that are updated, and sometimes old numbers for NLG go around on social media. And there's a lot of speculative tips and things like that, but it's a good idea just to actually just bookmark this page. They've got lots of links sent to Center for Constitutional Rights, Civil Liberties Defense Center, Grand Jury Resistance Project, Movement for Black Lives Legal Resources, the national hotline number, some of the state and local hotline numbers, and all that stuff. So if you're going out to these protests, I recommend you have this information handy. And if you expect to be in the thick of it, you should be sharpieing the NLG hotline on your arm. And if you expect to be in a support or observational role in the background, then I would at least have this information handy with you. If you have a phone with you, you should have these numbers at the ready. So that's why I linked to this below. Get them straight from the source so you don't accidentally share an old number that's not being used anymore. Last thing here before we move on, I wanted to show this short clip from Portland from last night from Sergio Olmos. And, oh, well, here you go. It's just a short one. Yeah, and basically just, I just wanted to show that because the vast majority of these rallies are just like that. Folks chanting and just trying to bring attention to this cause, push the cause forward. And that's not the clip you're going to see on on some of the news channels, because the violence and the incidents are so sensationalized and clickbaity. And so you're going to see a lot of that and not as much of this. So anyway, I just wanted to share that clip there. And that is from Sergio Olmos at Mr. Olmos on Twitter. So let's see, moving on to politics and updates from the primary election. Just give me one moment. I messed up one of my links on here. So okay, switch this over. All right. Let's dive into local primary election updates. First of all, in the congressional race in CD10, it appears we'll have a Democrat versus Democrat face-off between conservative Marilyn Strickland and progressive Beth Dolio with the Bernie endorsement. I will quote from Beth Dolio here. Quote, I am so proud of our grassroots team. In the last couple days, more than 80 volunteers made 25,000 calls to get out the vote. I'm humbled by the work they have done to fight for working families and our planet. Thanks to their efforts, we are taking this fight to the general. And I replied, quote, I didn't support your primary campaign. I voted Collins, and I'm wary that you're running as a Bernie-crat outsider, but locally you've worked mostly as a centrist Dem. However, I will reconsider for the general, and I hope you work on connecting with the local activist community. Peace. And that was my response. And I'd love to hear your opinion about that. Am I wrong? Let me know in the comments. And here's Joshua Collins' statement from August 6th. Quote, I'll eventually do a live video explaining how I managed to create a perfect storm of mistakes that led to this colossal failure, and then I'm going to be simply continuing my career as an OTR truck driver. I'm also going to be donating my social media accounts to mutual aid organizers. I'm not cut out to be a public figure at all, let alone a politician. I was overwhelmed by things others handle perfectly fine. I've had severe depression and anxiety since early on, and that got exponentially worse with the pandemic and Bernie's loss. I tried to cope with it, but I didn't succeed at that. I paid my staff well and treated them how I'd like to be treated. I chose not to lay everyone off at the start of the pandemic and dump the money into Facebook ads and mailers. My decision to take a break from social media because I was overwhelmed, at the same time I chose to change parties, sank our chances. I'm sorry to everyone who believed in me. I'll make this up to you, just not with electoral politics, or at least not from a leadership role. So, end quote. Thank you to Joshua Collins for running, and I personally wouldn't say this was a colossal failure. You were not running to win. You were running to push the Overton window to the left, and you were running to break new ground. And you broke a ton of ground this year. Remember, Josh's campaign was unionized as an IWW local, which is completely unheard of. And he left the Democrats in the middle of the primary and ran third party, which is also breaking ground and supporting our movement for a leftist coalition. He inspired a lot of people all around the country, and especially young people. Hundreds of young people will run for office as unapologetic leftists, in part because of what the Joshua for Congress campaign did in 2020. Folks in Puget Sound Socialist Party and others seem particularly bitter towards Josh, and that really reduces my interest in their party, to be honest, because it's just petty. And Joshua did a lot for the movement and pushing the Overton window to the left. And he's being criticized for using his donations to pay his staff well, as he mentions there in his post. Personally, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's fabulous. I think these campaign workers should be paid well, right? And should he be criticized for paying folks for working remotely? No, this is the middle of a pandemic. Anyway, so there's just a lot of criticism out there, and I think the vast majority of it is completely unfounded and misdirected. So anyway, just my take on that. Here's an update from the Mary Ellen Biggerstaff campaign. Quote, the primary results are mostly in, and I will not be advancing into the general election. We may have lost today, but there was so much that we've won in the process. We did not get the votes we needed, but we did come in third with about 20% of the Democrat vote, and we've shown Thurston County that they deserve more from their politicians. With all the support we've received, it's obvious that we are moving toward a more just and equitable system, even if it's more slowly than we would like. We should all be proud of that shared vision. Thank you so much to the supporters who took time out of their busy lives to make calls, donate, wave signs, and spread the word about the progressive working class movement we are building here in Thurston County to your friends, family, and neighbors. We're not done yet. The fight isn't over. I and all of my volunteers want to work with you to build a community where everyone has health care, safe working conditions, and a place to call home. We can and will continue that journey together. Mary Ellen, end quote. So thank you to Mary Ellen for running an excellent Democratic Socialist campaign And I agree with everything she said there. She came in a very strong position for running as a explicitly DSA Medicare for All candidate. So this was her first run, as I mentioned on my reaction video, and hopefully she'll consider running again. It's really hard to run as a working class candidate. And I will comment more about this in a few minutes because of the connections here with the DSA movement. But this just goes to show the gaining strength of DSA and Olympia. Turnout in Thurston County is currently up to about 42.5%, as you can see here from the Thurston County results page, which I'll link to below as well. It says there's an estimated 20,000 ballots left to count, though, so these are not final, and that will go up a bit, probably around 50% or a little higher, something like that. So these are not all of the results, but they are the majority, about 80% of the results here. So keep that in mind. And I will comment on the final turnout number when this is all fully counted and we can accurately compare that to prior primaries. So let's see. I wanted to, most of these haven't changed from my reaction video from the other day, and again, that link's in the description and you can find it on my page. So I'm going to try not to repeat too much stuff from that video. So if you want more detail on all the races, you can check that one out. But I did want to highlight just a couple of them here. One is the lieutenant governor race. With the most recent update, Dick Murray has come in second place in the lieutenant governor race to Denny Hack. And this means that Mark Elias is no longer in the top two here, as he was in the initial results that came out on election night. So that is very disappointing. It's not terribly surprising because, Democrat versus Republican, right? That's pretty typical. So, but I was really hoping Mark Elias would keep climbing and hit that second place spot, and we'd have Elias versus Heck in the general. So that's a disappointing update. So thank you to Mark Elias for at least providing a progressive option in that race. Denny Hack is a multimillionaire and governs like one, and I'm not a fan. So keep an eye on Mark Elias going forward. Mark Elias, as I mentioned before, is the only Democrat I voted for in this primary. Or at least the only Democrat that's not like explicitly Democratic Socialist. So, but yeah, basically it's, we need to make sure we have leftist candidates in all these positions, and we didn't in this race. And Denny Hack just rolled in with the big money in the TV spots and swept it up. And so it looks like we'll have a multimillionaire anti-Medicare for all lieutenant governor who's going to maintain the capitalist stranglehold on Washington state politics while doing nothing for his constituents. Washington, we just have to do better. But it's going to have to be next time. So the other one I wanted to highlight here on the results update page is the Thurston County Commissioner race for position 1. Let's see, let me just find it here. It's here we go. So this is the Carolina Mejia race that she won, and folks are pretty optimistic about that, and that's good, So, but let's look at let's dig into the numbers a little bit and see what they actually say, because there were 2 leftist candidates and 3 far-right candidates in here. So if you look at Carolina and Rory combined, they got about 39%. If you combine the right-wing candidates, Davis, Hutch, and Blake, their combined total is currently around 49%. That doesn't mean the general election will be 49-39, but it just gives us a rough idea of where we're at right now, which is 10 points behind. This might be the most important race on the ballot for Thurston Progressive, so I think it's important we focus on it and spread the word about Carolina and come together to support her campaign. We came up just short last go around for some of these county commission races, and we just can't keep doing that. It's tough in Thurston County because you got a lot of rural areas and all these districts. These commission districts are drawn up in such a way to make them as conservative as possible, basically. And it's tough. It's tough to win countywide. And so, so you can see my interview with Carolina in the links below, and I'll see if I can get a second interview post-primary to follow up with that. Here's a great thread with some other candidates around Washington by @KamauMauMau from Census Alliance Washington. Quote, quick thread of all the races I was watching tonight and how initial results look. Let's start with Washington legislature. And Kamau here highlights a whole bunch of progressive candidates, but in particular, the focus here is on Black, Indigenous, and people of color candidates. So I'm not going to read the whole thread all the way through. I want you to follow the link and take a look. But these are candidates around Washington that I'm not necessarily as familiar with, not being in my area. And so I appreciate this thread and encourage others to follow all these links and go follow all of these candidates and take a look at what's going on statewide in terms of trying to get some more equitable representation in our government. He highlights Eduardo Castañeda Diaz, who ran a progressive campaign in the R plus 20% 13th district. He highlights Tanisha Harris here, who will be the first Black person ever elected to Washington outside Puget Sound. If successful, she is already outperforming her 2018 run. Let's see, Joy Stanford, trying to flip a district. In Federal Way, 2 Black candidates faced voters for the first time and both looking good for the general. April Berg in the 44th. Elect KHT. Kirsten Harris Talley in Washington's 37th. I'll quote that one. In the 37th, elect KHT is riding a wave of Zoomer support to 50+% in a 7-way primary. Whew. Vanna Orecchio and Blacktivist98 deserve tons of credit for running a campaign on taxing Amazon and defunding the police. So damn well. Yeah, absolutely. Props to you, and I am looking forward to learning more. There you go. Shot you a follow there. All right. And it goes on to highlight more. And again, I encourage you to take a look at that thread because there's a whole bunch of links here. Let's see. I did want to just quote one more here, which is, quote, another big local race flying under the radar. At Sharonda for judge, a former public defender could become the only Black judge on Thurston's Superior Court. Critical for position for working people and has jurisdiction over Olympia and gets all the big agency cases. I've brought up Sharonda a couple times previously, but yeah, I agree. That's a big one, flying under a lot of people's radar, as it was for me up until a few days before the election, to be honest. So thanks to Kamau for highlighting all of those excellent candidates. Here's updates from Jason Call. He looks like he's about a point behind, trying to get into the top 2. Here, a quote from yesterday. Yes, the gap is down to 1%, down from yesterday's 1.25%. I don't want to paint an overly rosy picture. This is still a long shot, but if late ballots trend our way, it is possible, along with the ballot hearing, 6,300 ballots. Also, if we get to 0.5%, there could be a recount. So, whew, good luck to Jason Call on those final ballots. And again, in Washington, it takes time for these ballots to come in, right? We're all mail state, and the ballots have to be postmarked only by election day. So they don't even necessarily even get to the elections office until a couple days later. And so those ballots come in, and when he says ballot curing, what that's talking about is sometimes they run all the ballots through the tabulation machine, and the tabulation machine picks out any ballots that it's not sure about. The AI is very good at determining ballots that are very straightforward and clean. But if there's any like dirtiness or smudge or crossed out answer or write-ins or anything like that, they don't leave it up to the AI. They kick it out, and then actual people who have been trained to look at these ballots do take a look at all of those and determine, what the intent of the voter was, because we don't want to leave that part up to a machine. If something is in question, they take a look at that, and I've done that work myself in the past here in Thurston County. So full disclaimer, I have worked in elections here and done that process. So rest assured, they do an excellent and very professional job of that, and they look at a lot of ballots. So that is and it takes time to do that. Most of these people are temp workers looking at these ballots, and a lot of them are seniors and young people and students and others in the community, and it takes time to get through all these ballots, looking at them one by one, and there's you're in a team of two, and everything is double checked. It's not just one person looking at a ballot and just making a decision. They're very professional about this, but it does take time. So anyway, wishing Jason Call the best luck on those final ballots. Finally, I'd just like to say thank you to all the candidates running, volunteers helping, and voters who supported leftist candidates in the 2020 primaries. Here in Thurston County, we still lack a strong, well-organized, widely recognized leftist political organization capable of running candidates in every race and winning like we need to do. Oly DSA has gained a tremendous amount of momentum over the past couple years, though, and is clearly now the biggest local leftist organization. New life has been breathed into the local Green Party as well, but it has yet to turn into campaigns so far. Plug in. I'm talking to you. Plug into these organizations, please, and help ensure that happens going forward. Remember that from a leftist perspective, primaries are the most important elections we have by a mile. Now that the 2020 primary is over, while the mainstream and media and the mainstream political discourse is distracted by capitalist versus capitalist for the rest of the year, leftists need to focus on the 2021 and 2022 primaries. So I encourage you to do so as well. I'll have more information on that over the coming episodes, including which offices and incumbents will be coming up, who might run or ought to consider running for those positions, and anything I hear about leftists and organizers starting campaigns. For now, I strongly encourage you to join at least one local leftist political organization and keep building the movement. All right, let's go. Green Party updates. This is a post from Howie Hawkins 4 days ago. Quote, "Thank you to all the Greens on the ground in Washington State who helped collect petitions to get us on the ballot. We turned in today, and now it's just a waiting game for the state to make it official." And then, hey, look, we have an update. And I want to second his big thank you to everyone who helped with that. Before the update on the signatures, I wanted to highlight this post by CJ Sellers of the South Sound Green Party. And I have linked to the South Sound Green Party Facebook page below, so you can go ahead and join that. They only have 214 members on there so far, so please boost them up and join. Let's see. But CJ Sellers, though, as she mentions down here, quote, "As the recently appointed Washington State Volunteer Coordinator for the H2O campaign," that's Howie Hawkins, 2020, "I'm starting out by spearheading a statewide informational campaign, but only with your help. Let's each of us who believe in a democratic process, in the health of this planet, in justice and doing the right thing, and in a new Green Deal for America, in every Washington town and country, let's write letters to the editor, opinions, talk to radio pundits and personalities, get on podcasts, you name it, even write to your representatives and demand a green agenda. We can't let this pandemic or the duopoly hold us back. It's just too important. Let's go for 5% of the vote in 2020 in this safe state. 5% won't help Trump win here, and it will award the Green Party of Washington State recognition. We won't have to waste time or risk contagion gathering signatures anymore to get candidates on the ballot. That's how we'll start to get a foothold and build green representation in local and state offices where we're needed most. So well said, CJ. I second that, and I will reach out to CJ and try to get her on the show, and we can talk more about that. But anyway, here is the most recent update on the petition signatures. Quote, "Your petitions are sufficient." Woo! That's what we like to hear, State of Washington, writes Howie Hawkins. Help us keep building our momentum and ensure that voters all over the country have a real choice in November. Donate and volunteer at howiehawkins.us/ballot access. We are on the ballot in Washington. All right. So thanks to all the volunteers who helped make that happen. And you and me need to log on to there and sign up to help. So this is a great time to donate to the Green Party campaign because they are still in the middle of ballot access fights all across the country. We need to get on the ballot in as many states as possible. And some of these states are really tough. The courts have been blocking and knocking us down, and the pandemic has made this very difficult considering the requirements. And a lot of states are not doing the right thing in terms of altering their policies for pandemic times in order to allow the Green Party ballot access. So that's a big struggle. So please contribute. And if we could get, imagine if we had the Bernie movement's financial and volunteer support moved over to the Green Party, like it would change everything. So please be a part of that. Here is an update from Angela Walker from yesterday. Quote, Hawkins/Walker supports the decriminalization of sex work based on the New Zealand model. I said what I said. And P.S. Attempting to shame me for my position on this issue won't work. Peace. And a heart. So thank you to Angela Walker for that statement, and to the Howie Hawkins, Angela Walker campaign for that position. And there is a link here to learn more about what the New Zealand model is if you're interested, and I'll link to that below. But basically it means that sex work is decriminalized for the local folks, but not for tourists, things like that. So it's sort of just trying to find a responsible balance and decriminalize sex work, but also support safety for folks in the community. Here is a post from yesterday from Angela Walker. Actually, this one's a couple days ago, but so this is, quote, red green roll call. If you know a green or socialist, or you are a green or socialist running for office this year, comment your ad. Folks need to be able to support hashtag Red Green Alliance, hashtag Green 2020, hashtag Hawkins Walker 2020. And there is a bunch of folks who have done just that in the comments, who Yana for Wyoming, Green Party of Allegheny County comments. They have multiple candidates. Josh Berger for Congress in Tennessee. Ronnie Henley, candidate for in Tennessee. Socialist endorsed by the Green Party. You got Bob Alft for New York State Senate 46. You got, this goes on and on. There's a link to a list of Greens on the ballot in Illinois, in Maryland, and on and on. So check this thread and follow all these folks and support their campaigns around the country. This is the time not to get distracted by, endlessly debating Biden versus Trump, whatever distraction baloney. This is the time to focus on organizing the left. And there are green candidates all across the country, and we need to dig in to support them, to learn about them, and to boost up the movement to coalesce the left and lift up the entire left in America. So this is a great thread for that, and thank you to Angela for that and everyone who has commented. And again, find the link below, go look at all those candidates and learn more. And I will report more on that going forward. So before we get to the general election. Now, I also wanted to highlight the Movement for a People's Party People's Convention 2020, because this is coming up on August 30th, and I haven't talked about it yet on this show, but they did a great interview with Nina recently, and they've got Cornel West speaking, Ryan Knight, and some others. So this is going to be huge. So take a look at peoplesconvention.org. You can sign up and tune in, because that is coming up again on August 30th. And I'll talk more about this maybe next episode, but the short story is here that these folks are organizing for, these are folks who are not necessarily supporting the Green candidate in 2020. That's not what this is about, or creating a party for 2020. They're talking about creating a people's party for 2022 and 2024, and so on. So their idea is to lay the groundwork now, get through the 2020 election, and have that platform ready for folks to dive in going forward. So anyway, let's all tune into that. And again, I support efforts to build a leftist coalition going forward. And whether that is a People's Party or the Green Party or whatever, the name is less important than the coalition. And all of these efforts to build and connect the left are needed and appreciated. And this is one of them. So moving on to upcoming events and fundraisers, I've got this one, which is a Thurston County Jail noise demo. I believe this is the third consecutive one here. They've continued to organize these in solidarity with folks in the Thurston County Jail and Youth Jail, and I really appreciate that. This one is hosted by Miguel Lewis, who I shared his fundraiser on, I believe, last week's show. So take a look at that. I believe his fundraiser is still short of the goal. So he's a tireless organizer here in Olympia. He was trying to help someone who's being attacked by a right-wing militia person and got attacked himself, and his glasses were broken. He lost his job because they called his boss, and all this crap he's gone through for being an organizer here for Black Lives Matter. So thank you to Miguel Lewis, and check out this link to the Thurston County Jail noise demo, which is actually tomorrow at 5 p.m. So coming up tomorrow. This one is for next Sunday from 4 to 9 p.m. at Heritage Park, and this is called the People's Assembly, Voices United for Black Lives. And this is Heritage Park next Sunday, August 16th, 4 to 9 p.m. And there is a bunch of stuff here: community art builds, BIPOC and local organizational speakers, music performances, kids area, table by local community resources, and more. COVID-19 social distancing measures will be in place and strongly encouraged. Please bring and wear a mask, extra masks, and hand sanitizer will be provided. So that is being billed as a family-friendly daytime event there. So take a look at that. That sounds great. And take a look. And that is being put together by Black Leaders in Action and Solidarity Thurston, TESC Black Student Union, Olympia Showing Up for Racial Justice. I believe also Protectors of the Salish Sea, possibly. I'm not sure on that one. But anyway, yeah, follow the link and check that out for more information. This is one called Pagan Protestival, Olympia Witches March for Black Lives, August 30th, Heritage Park, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Be peaceful and wear a mask. And folks have been organizing Olympia Witches Marches, and I think this is like a continuation of that effort. Beautiful flyer here. So thank you to Lene and anyone else involved in organizing that. And if that sounds like your jam, check out the link below. Again, that is August 30th. This is a fundraiser titled Indigenous Dads Bail and Legal Fees. We are at $28.60 out of $8,000. And this is a Sam. He is from the Spokane tribe of Indians, but he was racially profiled at a traffic stop in Olympia. And you can read the link for all this info, but basically racially profiled and just really struggling with our injustice system. And he really needs and deserves a good lawyer going into this fight. So please contribute to this campaign and help Sam get a good lawyer and find, as you know, again, no justice in an injustice system, but you've got to do your best and try to support folks in these legal battles. So so I will do that and encourage you to as well. So that's all I have for you today. I appreciate everyone tuning in and all the feedback and support I get from everybody. I'd really like to expand the show by including other voices, whether contributing segments or on an individual basis, or a recurring segment, or co-hosting, or anything like this. Reporting from the field from an event that you went to, or if you're someone who watches city council meetings or county commission meetings or anything like that regularly, I would love to hear from you and get your perspective on the show. So please reach out to me at PoliticOly@gmail.com. I welcome comments and constructive criticism of the show, so feel free. For example, do you like 1-hour episodes, or is it too long? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. So please let me know. Do you appreciate when I cut the video into smaller clips afterwards? Like if I have a 10-minute segment on a particular topic or something like that. Is that something that's helpful or useful to you? Please let me know. I'm just learning about all this stuff, so bear with me here, and I really appreciate all the feedback and everyone tuning in, and again, everyone involved in the struggle for justice. So love to you all. I hope you have a good week, and peace.